Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to completely transform how you tackle the UCAT Verbal Reasoning section. If you've been struggling to finish the passages, or if you constantly feel like the clock is your absolute biggest enemy, you're in the exact right place. We're going to dive into some serious, evidence-backed methods to rewire your reading habits, read faster, and ultimately score much higher.
Okay, let's kick things off with this number right here, 238. Take a breath and just think about that pace for a second. According to a really comprehensive review by the British Psychological Society, 238 words per minute is the average human reading speed. It's how most of us comfortably process text day to day. It feels safe. It feels normal.
But what if I told you that it's entirely possible to process up to 900 words per minute? Seriously, 900. By using specific cognitive techniques and literally training your eyes, you can push your processing speed to nearly 4 times the average. Keep that massive potential in mind, because when it comes to the UCAT, you are absolutely going to need it. Because here's the brutal reality of the UCAT Verbal Reasoning section. You are tasked with answering 44 questions across 11 super dense passages in just 22 minutes. When you do the math on that, it leaves you with roughly 29 to 30 seconds per question. Think about that. Less than half a minute to read, analyze, and lock in an answer. If you're reading normally, at that comfy average pace of 238 words per minute, the math simply doesn't work. You can almost feel the anxiety spike just thinking about it, right? This is the ultimate UCAT time trap, and it completely validates the severe time pressure so many pre-med and dental students face. If you go into this exam reading the way you read a normal book, you are mathematically guaranteed to run out of time.
So, let's dive right into our roadmap for fixing this. 1. The UCAT time trap. 2. The science of speed. 3. Skimming versus scanning. 4. Speed reading tools. And 5. Avoiding common VR traps.
Section 1. The UCAT time trap, and why we need to completely redefine this exam.
There is this massive myth out there that deep comprehension, absorbing every single tiny nuance of the text, is what gets you high scores. Actually, scratch that. The reality is quite the opposite. UCAT Verbal Reasoning is a timed inference and logic test that's just dressed up in text form. Reading fully like you're studying for a university final actively hurts your score. This exam rewards targeted, highly strategic reading. Getting bogged down in comprehension depth just eats into your extremely limited time budget. You don't need to retain this information for tomorrow, you literally just need it for the next 29 seconds.
Section 2. The science of speed and how we're going to overcome your cognitive roadblocks. And this brilliantly illustrates the 2 biggest hurdles we have to jump. The first is subvocalization. That's that little voice in your head sounding out every single word silently as you read. It's totally fine for everyday reading, but it physically limits your speed to how fast you can speak. We need to shift to visual processing. This means training your brain to see words as pictures. It's just like how you recognize a famous brand logo in a fraction of a millisecond without actually reading the letters. We want to let your eyes do the work, not your inner voice. The secret to unlocking this visual processing lies in a really cool concept called RSVP, or Rapid Serial Visual Presentation. Psychology professor and researcher Mary Potter actually coined this technique. Basically, it flashes words on a screen sequentially, often anchoring your eye on just one red letter. Why? Because it completely eliminates wasted eye movements, which are scientifically known as saccades. When your eyes aren't endlessly bouncing around the page from left to right, your brain can absorb the information at lightning speed. To really put the staggering potential of this into perspective, Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice usually takes about 8.5 hours to read at an average pace. But if you train your brain using RSVP to process at 900 words per minute, you could read the entire novel in just 2.5 hours. That is the incredible power of eliminating subvocalization and visual jumping. It's basically a superpower.
Section 3. Skimming versus scanning. This is going to be your core strategy.
So the crucial point here is understanding that skimming and scanning are 2 entirely different but totally complementary skills. Skimming is not just reading fast, it's building a structural map of the passage in 20 to 30 seconds. Scanning, on the other hand, is visually hunting for a specific anchor keyword to find your evidence. You skim first to orient yourself, and then you scan to answer the question. Mastering this 1-2 punch cuts your average time per question down to under 25 seconds.
Let's break down the exact skimming protocol step by step. Step 1. Read the very first sentence of the passage fully. This almost always gives you the main topic. Step 2. Read only the first sentence of each subsequent paragraph, because topic sentences carry the core argument. Step 3.
Note the final sentence, as conclusions are heavily tested. Notice what's missing here? You do not read the middle of the paragraphs on your first pass. You are simply building a mental map so you know exactly where the ideas live.
Once you have that mental map, you move straight into the scanning protocol. First, identify an anchor keyword in the question. You're looking for proper nouns, dates, or highly unusual words. Next, go directly to the paragraph your skim tagged as relevant. Third, let your eyes jump between anchor words. Do not read full sentences yet. Finally, once you visually spot that keyword, read only that specific sentence and the ones immediately around it to make your true, false, or can't tell decision.
Let's move to Section 4, Speed Reading Tools. Welcome to the Reading Gym. Here's your digital reading gym. Apps like Outread, Spry, Spreeder, Readlax, and Lexo are highly recommended in the source material for building this exact skill. They utilize that RSVP flashing technique we talked about, feeding you words at a pace you dictate, say pushing it to 400 or 500 words per minute. This forces your brain to stop subvocalizing and start visually processing. Spending just 10 to 20 minutes a day on these platforms can yield absolutely massive results in just a couple of weeks.
And hey, here's a fantastic non-digital tip you can apply immediately, especially when practicing on paper or a screen where you can't use an app. Use a physical guide. Just run your finger or a piece of card under the line of text as you read, moving at a steady, relentless pace. This physically prevents regression, that super annoying habit where your brain gets tempted to jump back and reread a sentence you think you missed. Force yourself to keep moving forward. Your brain is amazing and will often pick up the gist from the context anyway.
Section 5, Avoiding Common VR Traps, so we can keep that momentum going.
Now, what's really interesting here is how incredibly easy it is for cognitive traps to sabotage all that speed you just built. Trap 1, treating this like a university reading task and trying to annotate or understand every single nuance. Just don't do it. Trap 2, scanning for meaning instead of words. Remember, you should be visually hunting for a specific anchor word, not asking yourself, where did they talk about this general idea? And Trap 3, losing your paragraph map mid-passage because your initial skim was too passive. Active skimming is deliberate. It's a mission to find out where the ideas live.
Which brings us to our final thought, a really powerful mantra from the team at Lexo. Stop reading about reading. Spend 10 minutes in the gym. The science is incredibly clear. The strategies are completely proven, but literally none of it matters without deliberate practice. So are you going to stay at that average 238 words per minute, or are you going to step into the gym today and unlock your true potential? The clock is ticking. Get out there and start training. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and good luck!